Hola, buenos días, estudiantes. Today you are going to learn how to tell time. So, if you don't already have your numbers notes, I suggest you pause the video and um, take out los números, the sheet of paper where you wrote down how to say your números en español. Okay, so we're going to begin. And let's see. So, in English, when you ask someone for the time, then you might say, like, excuse me, what time is it? Okay. In Espanol, we do the same. So, the question that you will ask is, Perdón, ¿qué hora es? Okay. So, repitan, Perdón, ¿qué hora es? And that's what you say to find out what time it is. Okay. So before we move on to actual telling time, I want to go ahead and review this type of clock with you because at school they still exist, even if you don't wear one. Okay. So just really quickly, when you're looking at this type of clock, the small hand is pointing at the hour and the long hand points at the minute. Okay, so for example, here, since this is pointing closer to the 12, then it's 12, and this is pointing to the 3, then 3 times 5 is 15. What do I mean by that? Well, each one of these increments represents 5 minutes. So from 12 to 1, that's 5 minutes. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and so on, all the way to 60. And you know, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Okay? So in Espanol, we call minutes los minutos, and we call an hour la hora. Okay? So let's move on. So you'll notice that on your notes, there is some space on the right hand side where you can fill in the minutes, just so that you have them. So go ahead and pause this video for now and fill in next to the 5, y 5, y 10, y 15, y 20, y 25, y 30. Okay, you'll notice you're not filling these in, but you can say y 35, y 40, y 45, y 50, y 55 for the minutes. Okay, you need to understand that's for the minutes. You haven't said the hour. Okay, so telling time is actually really easy in Espanol. It's very similar to Inglés. So here we say it's 12:15. In Español, we say son las 12 y 15. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So again, the question, perdón, ¿qué hora es? Okay, so let's take a look at this clock. So in English, we would say it's 10:10. Okay? In Español, however, we say son las, and then we say the hour, which we said was 10, so 10, y, and then you wrote the time in here, so it's already 10. Okay? So then we say son las 10:10. Súper fácil, ¿no? Okay, so let's try this one. This one is a little different. En español, anytime you are going to say that the hour is 1, you have to say es la una. Okay, even if it was like 1:15, you would say es la una y 15. Okay, if it was 1:20, es la una y 20. If it was 1:30, es la una y 30. Okay, I think you get the point. So let's look at some other clocks. Okay, so here it is 11 and about 06. Okay, so then in Español, what do you say? You say son las 11:06. Okay, there it is. Son las 11:06. Okay, try this one. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, remember you say son las, and then what? Y, and then you say the minutes. So then the answer is son las 6:18. Okay, how about this one? Okay, once again, son las, what number is this? 12. Y, what number is this one? That's a bigger number. 35. So, altogether you say, son las 12:35. Okay, one more. Here, the small hand is on the 9 and the long hand is at the 5 minutes. Okay, so here you would say what? Go ahead and turn to your partner. Okay, here's the answer. Son las 9:05. Okay, isn't that pretty easy? Okay, well, let's see if you can try it out. Okay, but before you move on, at the top right-hand corner of your hoja de papel, which is your sheet of paper, you see there's a small AM and then there are 2 PMs. Go ahead and pause so that you could write next to the AM. We say de la mañana. Next to the middle PM, we say de la tarde for the afternoon. And next to the moon PM, we say de la noche. So let's say that this one was 6:18 a.m. because that's what time you get up. Well, in Español, we don't say a.m. We say son las 6:18 de la mañana. Okay? And then let's say this is 12:35 p.m., which would be like right after lunch. So then we would say son las 12:35 de la tarde. Okay? And then let's say that this is 9:05 p.m. So then it's already nighttime. So we say son las 9:05 de la noche. Okay? So you'll need to remember AM and PM for telling time. Okay? So here we have some more practice for you. So once again, son las 10:10. Es la 1. So what you need to do at this moment is practice with your partner. Okay? So just practice saying the time, telling the time. Maybe partner A, you can ask, perdón, ¿qué hora es? And then partner B will answer. So go ahead and pause at this moment and decide who is going to do the odds and who is going to respond to the evens. And remember to say, I purposely put in the AM and PM so that you can answer with AM and PM. Okay, so pause the video and go over these times with your partner. Okay, remember again, partner A, always ask, perdón, ¿qué hora es? And then if you're responding, remember, this is how you say it. It's also on the top left-hand corner. This question and this response is on the top left-hand corner of your notes. So I would recommend that you highlight the time so that you have it there, the how to ask and how to respond. Okay? And remember what to say when it's 1 o'clock. Okay? Remember to say es la una. and then E and your minutes. Okay? So go ahead and practice. Okay, now that you've practiced a little bit telling time with your partner, now we have to go over another way of telling time. Okay, so let's go ahead and review. So we said that una hora, which is 1 hour, equals how many minutes? 60. Okay, so on your notes, this is already half at the halfway point. Go ahead and fill in what we're doing here. Okay, fill that in. So then now you are going to divide the clock into 4 equal parts. So when we divide the clock into 4 equal parts, how many minutes are in each part? Okay, this is just a little bit of math for you. You can always take the 60 and divide it by 4, or you can just look. We have 5, 10, 15. And then in this section, we have 5, 10, 15. And then 5, 10, 15, 5, 10, 15. So 60 divided by 4 is 15 minutes. Okay, go ahead and write that in. So then it's fair to say that 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. Okay, just think of this as a pie. You cut it in fourths. 1/4 is the same as 1/4. Okay, if you think of money, that's why we call a quarter, the coin, a quarter, because it's 25 cents, which is a quarter of a dollar. 4 quarters equal $1. In time, 4 15-minute pieces equal 60 minutes. Okay, so I'm not sure. You may have heard people say, like, for example, here it's 12:15. They say it's a quarter after 12. Let's say that it was 12:45. And some people say it's a quarter to 1. We do the same in Espanol, so you'll have to memorize. You'll have to memorize that. So go ahead and go back to your notes, and under y quince, go ahead and write y cuarto, which means a quarter after. And then underneath y treinta, you'll notice there's already an extra line. Go ahead and write y media. Okay, so do that. Okay, and then underneath the where we talked about the quarter on your notes, you'll notice that it says hour and then the 00. In English, we might say like it's 5 o'clock on the dot. En español, we say son las 5 en punto. Okay? When it's 5:15, we'll say son las 5 y cuarto, which is a quarter after. And when it's 5:30, we'll say son las 5 y media, which is half past. Okay, so go ahead and make a note of that on your sheet of paper so that you know. Okay, and then what I would like you to do is practice telling time with your partner again, but using this, saying en punto when it's on the dot, saying y cuarto when it's a quarter after, and then saying y media when it's half past. Remember again to still say de la mañana for AM, de la tarde for PM but daytime, and de la noche for PM nighttime. Okay, so once again, take turns with your partner, decide who's going to say the odds, who's going to say the evens, and go over that. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now so that you can do that with your partner. Okay, so now that you've had some time to practice the other way, you are going to learn another way of telling time. So In English, this is what I was talking about when I was saying that it's like a certain number of minutes to the next hour. So, for example, I think I mentioned it's like a quarter to one. Okay. So, you have in your notes, you can fill this in. So, for example, when it's 8:50, in English, we might say it's 10 minutes to 9 or it's 10 to 9. Okay. When it's 3:45, someone might say it's 15 minutes to 4, or more likely, they'll say it's a quarter to 4. So in Spanish, we have a similar phrase. The main difference in Spanish is that we say the hour first and then we say the minutes. But here's another example. So when it's 1:55, someone might say, oh, it's 5 minutes to 2 or it's 5 to 2. Okay, so you need to also learn this way of telling time because a Spanish speaker might tell you the time this way and you need to understand what they're saying. Okay, so here is what we do. Okay, so for example, we will say son las, and then we say the next hour, menos the minutes left. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this slide really quickly. So like for here, it's 8:50. 10 to 9. So we will say, remember, this is the hour. So we'll say son las 9 menos 10. Okay. For this one, we say son las 4 menos cuarto. Or son las 4 menos 15. Okay. For 1:55, we might say son las 2 menos 5. Okay, which is kind of expressed here in numbers. 2 menos 5. So just think of it like going in that direction instead. Okay, so for example, here where it's 11:55, we would say son las 12 menos 5. Okay, remember, in English we say it's 5 to 12, but in Spanish we say son las 12 menos 5 because we always say the hour first. We always say the hour first, okay? So here it's 12:45. So then that means it's 15 minutes for it to be 1 o'clock. Okay, there are 15 minutes left for it to be 1. So in English, people might say it's a quarter to 1. So in Español, remember when we say the 1, we say es la 1 menos 15 or, yikes, es la 1 menos cuarto. And you can see on your notes, this is already written in on the left-hand side after the 30-minute mark. It's like the menos, okay? So, and I wrote in parentheses, next hour, menos whatever minutes are left, okay? So this is like, it's 15 to 1 or it's a quarter to 1. Okay, so yep, it's time for you to practice. So again, the question is, ¿qué hora es? Same question. So look on your clock on the paper. So if the long hand was at 35, you could see there that it's menos 25. So what's the next hour? The next hour is 11. And then we say menos, and then we say 25. Okay? So therefore, we say son las 11 menos 25. Okay? On this clock, take a look. If the long hand was at 45, you could see on the clock on your paper that would be menos 15. Okay, which can actually also be menos cuarto. Remember, it's a quarter. So the next hour is 6. So then we say son las 6 menos, how many minutes are left? 15. And then since it's AM, you could say de la mañana. Son las 6 menos 15 or son las 6 menos cuarto. Okay? Let's try this one. So it's 5:52. So 8 minutes for it to be 6. Okay, so ¿qué hora es? Son las 6 menos ocho. Okay, because there's 8 minutes to be 6. Okay, so son las 6 menos ocho. And finally, this clock that's been waiting, it's 8:54. So how many minutes are left for it to be 9? It's 6 to 9. 6 minutes for it to be 9. Therefore, we say son las 9 menos 6. And yes, you have to practice this. And of course, you have to learn it. Okay. Remember, you could still say, if somebody asks you, ¿qué hora es? You could still say it's 8:54. Son las 8:54. But you need to learn how to understand the menos. Okay. You just have to understand that. Okay. So how do you do that? Well, you practice. So you're going to do this with your partner first. You're going to actually, instead of doing it with your partner first, how about we write it down first? Just because that way you can like take a little bit more time to think of how to say it. And that way when you do practice with your partner, you already have it written down and you can just read what you have, and your partner will check your response because he or she should have written exactly what you wrote also. Okay? So go ahead and write these times using the menos, okay? We're using menos. On the bottom half of your paper, you could see that you have 6 spaces there. So that's where you're going to do that, okay? So here they are. Remember here, it's 5:35. Use the clock that's on your notes. Okay, you'll see there that the longhand points at 35. You could see what you're going to say in Spanish. Use that. Okay, and don't worry right now about doing the AM PM. Just remember 5:35. It's 25 minutes to 6. Okay, so you need to write these out en español. Okay, as soon as you finish writing all 6 out en español, you can ask your compañero, ¿estás listo? Or if it's a young lady, ¿estás lista? And go over them together. Okay, you need to understand because you will have some tarea where you're going to be using these. Okay? Okay, estudiantes, well, I hope you understood how to tell time. And don't you worry, we will be practicing this throughout the whole year because you'll hear me say the time or write down the time. Okay, so, bueno, hasta luego.